What is up, Light Fam? Welcome to another video. My name is David. I've posted quite a few videos on what's known as the dark night of the soul. This is synonymous with ego death. I've posted a lot of videos on the Great Awakening 2020, which is the purging process of those egoic aspects of the collective that are asking to be illuminated so that the collective can move to a higher state of consciousness, like 5D consciousness. These types of videos have garnered quite a few questions about the ego. Is the ego good or bad? Does the ego ever die? Well, let's get into that right now. If you are new to the channel and this type of content resonates with you, please smash that notification bell so you don't miss the twice weekly spiritual tutorials that I post. Also, remember to have a look around in the description below. We have got the 30-minute guided meditation on abundance for you. Remember, if you have Gmail, that meditation will be under the promotions tab. You can also sign up for one-on-one coaching or order a personalized video addressing your specific spiritual stumbling blocks. Let's get into the video. So what is ego? Well, let's take a trip back to prehistoric times. Ego is just a survival mechanism. It establishes this is mine and that's yours, and if you try to come for mine, then we're gonna have a fight to the death or whatever it is, right? You know, you got the proverbial cavemen that are fighting over a piece of meat. One caveman tries to hit the other caveman over the head with a rock and take his meat. So that type of primal survival energy was necessary for the human race to just survive and evolve over time. Now we happen to be in a more civil age. I know you guys out there know we have a lot further to go, and I would agree with that, but we're not where we once were. And now situations are different where a higher viewpoint of consciousness is the order of the day and less of the survival fight or flight mechanism. So, you know, if someone jumps into your lane without using their signal, that doesn't require a level 10 survival response from you. So we can look at the ego as kind of an advanced early warning system. So you are the captain of the ship, and you've got this radar in front of you, and there might be a little beep on the radar. Beep, beep. Oh, that's the ego warning that there may be something over here. Navigate this way. Beep, beep. Oh, there might be something over here. If you are navigating the ship and you understand the ego is going to interject its opinion of what is a threat, then you understand you're the captain. You can respond, not react, and kind of validate whether or not the ego is suggesting an actual threat. But we don't take the ego's warning as gospel, and furthermore, we don't act immediately on the ego's suggestions. So understanding if the ego is good or bad is very important after you've had a spiritual awakening, because that spiritual awakening will spark the dark night of the soul, which is ego death. And ego equals identity. So it's the ego's identity that dies and changes, not your true identity. So if you understand that that chaotic period you're going through is just your ego's identity going through an identity crisis, you won't vilify the ego. But understand ego death is not killing your ego and now you can just live without an ego. So this begs the question, does the ego ever die? Now, I don't claim to be on the same spiritual level as these yogis that have lived out in the woods for 30 years learning how to levitate. If they say they've killed their ego, then I can't argue with them. I can't live their life through their eyes. Only they know whether or not they've actually truly killed their ego. At my spiritual level, I would say you cannot kill your ego. And the reason I would say that is because your ego is not physical. Your ego is a part of consciousness. What is consciousness? Thoughts. What are thoughts? Energy. Energy never dies. It just transfers forms. So killing energy would violate the number one purpose of the universe, which is expansion. all scientists agree the universe is perpetually expanding and the universe is energy. So saying something that is energetic just dies makes no sense. The ego is not physical. You can't go in for surgery and they cut you open and they find your ego and say, there's that little bugger, you've been causing so much trouble in this person's life, get on out of here. Then they sew you up and you go live the life of a saint and you actually learn how to levitate, I don't know. It doesn't work that way. However, the ego does die at the level of consciousness where it is no longer vibrationally congruent. Meaning, if you have a 3D ego and you've had a spiritual awakening, that ego is going to be more vibrationally aligned with 4D consciousness than 3D consciousness, or at least that process starts before it completely goes through the dark night of the soul. Let's say that you're in 5D consciousness. That ego is going to be more aligned with the dominant frequency of 5D consciousness, unity consciousness, and less with 3D consciousness. So, but you're still going to need that primal 3D ego because it may need to pump you full of adrenaline to save your life or protect your family. So it never dies because it needs to be there. That 3D primal ego is still going to be lurking under the surface like a sleeping dragon to keep you alive if it needs to. So understand that you are not killing your ego. If you are moving from 3D to 5D consciousness, you are transitioning from a 3D dominant ego to a 4D dominant ego, and then a 5D dominant ego. Notice that word dominant. Everything is in degrees. There's not black or white. So let's say someone has 80% 5D ego, 10% 4D ego, and 10% 3D ego. Now, that's going to be somebody who is meditating at a minimum once per day, if not twice or more. But let's say that's the person that we're talking about, and they all of a sudden get a 3D trigger in their vibrational field. That level of vibrational dissonance is going to immediately let them know where they need to raise the vibration in their vibrational field. How do you figure out what your rough percentages are? Well, how often do you get triggered? That's pretty much the number one way to figure out where you are with your ego. If you are getting triggered 24/7, then you are still in 3D, and that is okay. There is no judgment here. Everybody is evolving perfectly where they're supposed to be on their perfect timeline. For more information on that, go watch my video here, Are We Perfect? Also, if you want kind of a nuts and bolts ego video where I really break down the ego, go watch my video here, Ego, Good or Bad. So understand your ego's ascension into higher awareness of true identity is more of an evolutionary process, the same as humans have done for millennia as we move more into a civil species. And it's not about achieving this idealistic ego death where now you just live without an ego. And this is what the Great Awakening 2020 is all about. It's about the ego death of the 3D dominant ego of the collective dying and giving birth to the 4D dominant ego of the collective, and eventually getting over to the 5D dominant ego of the collective. And this is how the collective moves from 3D to 5D consciousness, and we step into a new 5D Earth. Now, question of the day. Are you vilifying and demonizing your ego and making it out to be the bad guy? Or, nah, I got it in its place. Leave those comments below, Light Fam. I would love to get an open discussion on this topic. If you liked the video, then please like the video. If you want to see more videos on ego death, the dark night of the soul, a spiritual awakening, 5D consciousness, moving from 3D to 5D consciousness, the Great Awakening 2020, we got it all here at Lightways for you. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, add me over on Instagram, _Lightways. I do answer a lot of questions over there. Remember to have a look around in the description box below. We do have that free 30-minute guided meditation on abundance. You can also book a one-on-one coaching session or just order a personalized video addressing your specific spiritual stumbling blocks. Now, if you know anyone that has had a spiritual awakening and they are going through the dark night of the soul and their 3D ego is having an identity crisis and they are blaming their 3D ego for everything, not understanding that the ego, 3D ego, just understands the 3D plane, then please share this video with them. It may give them the insight that they need to get a little bit of peace of mind and descend into a 4D dominant ego. I think that is it for me, guys. I will see all of you in the next video. You know the deal. Light, love, and abundance to all that are watching and to all you love. Peace, guys.